Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi and today we have an incredible team report from a player who got top 8 at the 450 player Limitless tournament this past weekend. I'm joined by Paulo. How are you doing?
Uh, I'm doing fine. Thank you, Adi, for inviting me. It's a great opportunity for me, and yeah, thank you. And
Yeah,
I hope that we can talk a bit about the team and how things went past weekend.
you had an incredible run, but first, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Okay, sure. Well, my name is Paulo Miranda. I am a Chilean BGC player. I started playing in BGC 17. I managed to get my Worlds invite in BGC 18, and I actually stopped playing competitive Pokemon when Sword and Shield arrived, mainly because I started to go to university and because of the pandemic. So this is like my comeback to BGC, and I'm really enjoying the new games. I think this new format is really fun, has a lot of potential. So I kind of wanted to start playing again, and here I am.
Yeah, and I mean, you came back. We were just talking a little earlier about how much you love these limited dex formats where there aren't a ton of really powerful Pokemon, and as a result, there's the field really feels wide open. It almost like you can use anything, and so you did get to use a really cool team with some new Pokemon and some new abilities. Um, so talk me through the first 2 weeks since Scarlet and Violet came out, and what your thought process was as far as VGC goes.
Okay, sure. Well, I was playing Scarlet and Violet and having a lot of fun, but when I was playing, I was actually thinking about Pokemon that could be usable in the format. And first 2 weeks, we had like this format which you could use like practically every Pokemon in the Pokédex, and I obviously knew that the format was not going to be like that, but it was hard to know at first. So yeah, I probably thought about Dondoso. It was actually the first team I started playing with because I thought it was really fun. Like it's two Pokemon that we had never seen before and seemed like broken strategy. So I was actually using that, and I used it till like Friday. Past Friday tournament was Saturday, and I actually decided to change my team like on Saturday morning, and that was because I was facing a lot of Murkrows with the Dondoso team, and it's just like a hard counter, and I was losing so many battles, and I said, okay, I'm not gonna use Dondoso. I'm gonna go with a Murkrow Hyper Offense team because it's like Hyper Offense like always pretty easy to pilot, and yeah, I saw this team like on Twitter on David Kutash's Twitter, and I liked it first when I saw it. Had like pretty much everything I needed and I wanted. Had like Gholdengo, which I wanted to try out because Make It Rain is like so powerful, and wanted to see how that was doing. And had my Dragon, which is like one of the best defensive threats we've got right now. Annihilate, which is also pretty good Pokemon. With the Choice Scarf and Final Gambit combo, you can practically get rid of everything in order to clear the way for Gholdengo and Hydreigon to sweep through your opponent's team.
Yeah, and so Dave did release a rental code, as you mentioned, which is on screen right now if you want to try it out yourself. He also has a YouTube video on his channel where he talks a little bit more about the team, and he calls it a good place to start, which I guess is kind of what happened since this was the first big tournament of the year, and you, of course, saw a lot of success with it. And so after 16 rounds of playing with this team, 16 best of threes, you know how to use this team better than anyone else. So talk me through the Pokemon on the team and how the team plays.
First, we've got okay. The main idea of the team is pretty simple. After all, it's like a hyper offense team, and we all know what this type of teams do. It consists of trying to have the speed in your favor and sweeping your opponent with powerful attackers like as quickly as possible. So we got Murkrow as our talent setter here, and I think he is by far the best talent setter we've got in the format right now, mainly because of the prankster priority. And besides that, is just an excellent option to stop like different strategies that are based on boosting Pokemon with the use of haste, like Mendoza and Tetsquiri, like Bulk Up Annihilate, Iron Defense, Garganicool, and many others. And the good thing is that you can get rid of your own Pokemon drops, which is just insane. And this team in particular features moves like Close Combat, Make It Rain, Draco Meteor. So it had a lot of use. You can go back to neutral and be able to hit pretty hard again. Actually, on the full play side, this move hits really, really hard to physical attackers such as Garchomp, Gyarados, Arcanine, and it can actually bring Garchomp down to half HP, which is just really good. And as a last move, this Murkrow has Taunt, which can help you to stop Pokemon like Mungus and some Trick Room strategies. I feel like these four moves are really like key in Murkrow, and I don't think I would change any of them. You could probably consider Quash, which can actually help you versus opposing Murkrow teams. But I think these moves are the best for this Pokemon. Eviolite is definitely the item to go with, since it's give you a pretty decent bulk and you can stay out in the field for much longer. Annihilate is a Pokemon that can exert a lot of pressure into pretty much everything because of the Choice Scarf and Final Gambit combo. And if you consider the base HP that Annihilate has, you can KO almost every mon in the format, like except Amoonguss and Dondozo. Paired with a move that can deal a tremendous amount of damage, such as Close Combat, has Brick Break as well, which is really useful to deal with opposing screens that can be annoying to deal with. And the last move is Shadow Claw. A stab move has a chance of critical hit, and I think it's way more optimal than Rage Fist, given that since you're running a Choice Scarf, you're always going to hit first, and you're not really going to be taking advantage of Rage Fist. We've got Hydreigon, which I think is probably one of the best offensive Pokemon this format has to offer, primarily because it is a Pokemon that can really benefit from Terrestrialization, because it can get rid of the Fairy weakness, which has always been one of its major downsides. Short type in this Pokemon, I think it is very versatile. You can take advantages of, I would say, 3 Terra types that are really good in this Pokemon, which are Fire Terra type, Steel Terra type, and Poison. Fire, I would say, is like more of a bold and offensive choice. You lose the Fairy weakness, and you can hit really hard with Heat Waves. And we've got a Steel type, which is a really good Terra type as well. You can actually tank Garchomp because you are not being affected by the Earthquake. Dragon Claw is not really effective, and same goes for Rock Slide. And Poison type, it's more of a defensive Terra type, since you're only weak to Psychic type attacks, and there's no many Psychic type. So yeah, pretty much those 3 Terra types I would say that are the best on Hydreigon. I think Life Orb is probably the best choice in this Pokemon, because it allows you to still have Protect, and I think Hydreigon really needs it, considering that it's quite a frail Pokemon. Tailwind could be a solid choice as well, but since this team has already a Prankster Tailwind, I found it a bit necessary. And the moves you have are the stab moves that are Dark Pulse and Draco Meteor. You can actually use Dragon Pulse, but if you really want to exert some pressure, yeah, go for Draco Meteor. Next up, we've had Gholdengo. Gholdengo was probably the MVP of the tournament. just hits so hard. There's actually just a few Pokemon that can resist two Maker Rains. Has perfect synergy with Hydreigon and Murkrow. And that was actually a core I saw a lot throughout the weekend, which consisted of Murkrow, Gholdengo, Hydreigon, and some other Dragon type. It could be Garchomp or Dragonite. Make it rain, of course, one of the best moves in this format. And with the use of choice packs, you can sweep through teams if you manage to get your Gholdengo in a safe spot. And it's Shadow Ball to deal with opposing Gholdengos. And this one in particularly has Thunderbolt, can help dealing with water and flying types, and Focus Blast that I didn't really use because it has a high chance of missing the target. Last 2 months, Dragonite. I didn't really bring Dragonite to a lot of my matches, but I used it when I felt like I needed a bit more of sustain towards the end game. Runs on a Soul Best, and that makes it pretty bulky. As a normal Terra to get rid of weaknesses and hit a staff extreme speed. You can learn a lot of coverage moves. This one in particularly uses extreme speed, low kick, earthquake, and dragon claw. And the last mon is Glade. Glade was definitely the mon that I used the least, and I think it was because of the tournament being an open team sheet. This Glade runs Trick Room, which can help you deal with opposing Trick Room teams or other Tailwind offense teams. The issue was that I didn't really face Trick Room teams this tournament, and if I would have wanted to deal with opposing Tailwinds, like my opponent would already know that I was running Trick Room, and Glade would have probably been taunted right away. So that is the main reason that I didn't quite use this Pokemon. But I definitely think that Glade has a lot of potential, can hit pretty hard with his ability, and can learn Prison as well, which can make life a bit easier against Trick Room. That's the team pretty much.
Yeah, that's a great overview of the team. And so now, with the benefit of hindsight and 16 games under your belt, what changes, if any, would you make to the team?
Um, I think I really missed like having a Garchomp. There was some times where I was like really well positioned, and I said, like, man, if I only had like Earthquake Garchomp, Life Orb, or Band next to Hydreigon, just a spamming Heat Wave plus Earthquake, like that would tear apart my opponent's team. And I think that would have been like more beneficial for the team. Like probably instead of Dragonite that it didn't really use, Garchomp would have been like a nice add-on. And probably something to deal with Trick Room better. But even though I didn't face Trick Room teams, I do expect it to rise. So I think you have to be prepared in case a Trick Room teams, in case you deal with a Trick Room team.
Yeah, and so talk me through some of the common game plans or common leads that you had and approaches that you had into some of the more common matchups.
To be honest, like I didn't have any matchups planned because I didn't really know what I was going to face. But this team and this core works in a pretty simple way. You just lead Murkrow plus Pokemon that can really exert some pressure on your opponent side right away. And that can be either Hydreigon or Annihilate. This, of course, does not mean that you can lead Murkrow plus something else, or like that is extremely necessary to always start with Murkrow. My most common leads were like Murkrow plus Hydreigon with Gholdengo and Annihilate in the back, or Murkrow plus Annihilate with Gholdengo and Hydreigon in the back. So idea was mainly to set Tailwind and try to clear the path for your Gholdengo, so he can simply choice specs make it rain. Most common Gholdengo threats currently are Garchomp and Hydreigon, and they both go down to final gambits, so that is the main idea of Annihilate and Hydreigon as well, to clear the path and just start sweeping. Matchups, of course, are always going to be in your favor if your opponent does not have a way to control speed, or if their Tailwind user does not have priority, like Kilowattle that I face one, or Hydreigon itself. In case of a Murkrow mirror that I found very often actually. It's like key to be the last to tailwind because that is going to give you like 1 or 2 extra turns of tailwind when your opponent tailwind speeders out. Uh, those 2 first turns that your opponent is going to be faster than you, you can go like for Protect Hydreigon, Foul Play, which is going to deal decent damage. Then you can Foul Play again or Taunt and try to bait with your Terra, for example, and then set your own tailwind. KO their Murkrow, and now you're going to be faster the rest of the match and going to have the speed control. It's also possible that your opponent wants to preserve the Murkrow after going for tailwind by getting it out of the field, and then in that case you got to do the same because it is important to never lose the speed advantage. Preserving Murkrow is key as well when dealing with opposing Dundoses, since your opponent is probably not going to lead with it and it's going to wait for your Murkrow to go down, and then get the Dundose and Tetsuya out on the field. So, yes, as you can see, preserving Murkrow was really vital in general. And yeah, team is really not perfect, but it has shown and proven that it can do pretty well. Like I said earlier, I definitely miss a Pokemon like Garchomp. And I think that are a lot of Pokemon that can really fit in the scene, like Meowscarada, which has pretty cool typing and hits pretty hard, probably Mousehole. I saw a team today earlier on Twitter that had Murkrow, Hydreigon, Gholdengo, and Garchomp, plus Salazzle and Meowscarada. So I definitely want to try something like that out. I think that could be good.
Yeah, I mean that Murkrow, Hydreigon, Gholdengo core really was everywhere in this tournament. We saw it so often, and you can put a lot of different Pokemon around it. But it sounds like this combination worked really well, and it sounds like, at least as a starting point, it gave you some good ideas as to where how to develop this sort of archetype.
Sure.
But yeah, on that note, so you came into this tournament not having a ton of experience with this team, and then you of course got all the way to top 8. Do you want to talk me through your tournament run and how it went?
Okay, sure. So I was saying that didn't have much preparation with this team, to be honest. I was actually playing a Dondoso, but I thought like if I play Dondoso in this tournament, I'm gonna be like super countered. Like I'm gonna face Murkrow probably in every round, and I'm gonna go 0-9. So I decided to uh, change the team like 3 hours before the tournament. And yeah, since I hadn't played Pokemon in a while, I was actually expecting to like. I said to myself, okay, probably 5-4, 6-3 is decent. Like to actually come back. Like I'm not expecting to do like super well in this tournament, and I actually did pretty well. So I'm really happy about that. And yeah, I can talk about some of the rounds that I had throughout the
Yeah,
weekend. Okay.
yeah. Tell me
Mm,
about some of the more interesting matchups that you played.
Okay. Probably my loss against Mythos 13 was interesting. This is was my first loss in the 8 rounds I had. He was running a pretty defensive team actually, which consisted of okay, yeah, he had like Sylveon, Garganical, Amoonguss, Grimmsnarl, Hydreigon, Vaporeon, like super bulky Pokemon that I wasn't really sure that I was going to be able to go through them. Like Vaporeon had Citrus Berry, so I would attack him and he would heal to 75, 80%. Amoonguss with the Regenerator, Garganical with the Iron Defense, Body Press was really annoying to deal with. The Sylveon with the Yawn, like, uh, thought it was really good, really defensive team. So in the end, I remember that he was left with his Organical, and he just Terra Ghost, and I just couldn't. I couldn't go through that Organical, and that actually made me lose. We went to like game 3, but yeah, that ended up giving him the win. Uh, I wanted to talk about my match against Sambi as well. Sambi was actually running a pretty cool team that had a Vomit and like had Rotom Frost, which I didn't really expect to see. Had Killer Watchel as well, so yeah, pretty unique team. And yeah, in team preview, I remember like saying to myself like, okay, how am I going to deal with this? Like, if I'm not careful, he could just like blizzard through my whole team. But yeah, he led. I remember with his Killer Watchel. I really wanted to taunt him, so I was in control of the speed. I remember he used Gholdengo or Abelmo Snow and Garchomp. That Gholdengo with flying turret type actually was really unique as well. But yeah, I ended up having speed control. I killed Kilowattrel like in first 2 turns, and then with my young Gholdengo, I was able to just sweep throw a bonus now, even though he had Terra Water. But as I said earlier, Make It Rain is like just so powerful that just he'll end up doing like 45%, and yeah, that's definitely a lot of damage. And yeah, probably my set with Fede Campo as well, which ended up taking the whole thing. It's really interesting. I actually battled him twice uh, on the last round of day 2 and then in top 8. When we battled on the last round of day 2, he actually beat me pretty easily. That he usually leads with Murkrow and Gengar. He just goes for Tailwind and then starts spamming Isowind. And with that, you then KO their Gengar, and he just goes with Hydreigon, and he's always going to be faster because of the Ice Winds, and he can start sweeping. So I can see that as a very powerful strategy as well. Chris Body activated a few times. Like I went for Heat Wave and did like half HP to Murkrow and to Gengar as well, but deactivated. So I was Hydreigon went pretty much useless. And he connected he connected some hypnosis as well, like 1 or 2, which was quite annoying. But yeah, I assume there's nothing you can do about that. But yeah, congrats to Fede Campo, who is a really great player and has actually won 2 of the first tournaments of this new game. And the other set I wanted to talk about was my top 16 set. I actually I cut in the 8th seed, so I had to get to the real to pay. I had to face the player who cut in the 9th seed, which was quite stressing because like if I had made like 7th seed, I wouldn't have to go through this. But this team is really interesting because it's based on priority moves. If you can see, he's running Choice Band, Dragonite, normal turret type with Extreme Speed and Giga Impact. That must hit pretty hard. He has a Palafin with Jet Punch. He has King Gambit with Sucker Punch. So yeah, it's a team that can really, if you're not prepared well enough, he's just going to start extreme speeding. He's going to start using Sucker Punch, and you're not going to be able to mitigate the pressure he is exerting on you. I remember we went on to third game, mainly because in the second game, he actually started extreme speeding with Dragonite and Sucker Punch with King Gambit, and I wasn't able to stop it. And yeah, that was actually pretty annoying as well. And he had a Moongus as well, so he used Rage Powder and just priority moves. So I
Hmm.
managed to beat him and go to cut, and that was, yeah, I was pretty happy with that. This was a really tense match. So we went with Fede Campo again onto game three now. I remember actually game three was my Murkrow versus their Hydreigon. Murkrow Hydreigon mirror actually, and it really depended on whose striker meter went first. And mine went first. I KO'd. I thought like I had pretty much won at the time, but then he used Gengar and Gholdengo, and with Isuin, he still managed to go uh, to sweep my team, and yeah, was kind of frustrated. But to be my first tournament like in 3 years, I was really happy, and like I was not mad at all. Like at first, you get mad because of losing, and you start thinking, "Oh, could have done this, and that probably would have won me the game." But yeah, I'm pretty happy with my performance overall. I fought players that were really good, and that's really good to upgrade. And yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, a really, really impressive run to go to get top eight out of 450 players.
Yeah,
It's a huge tournament, um, and especially again without a ton of familiarity with the team to
mm,
and to kind of figure it out on the fly. And then, I mean, against Fede Campo, I think that he has a very similar team to you, right? He has four of the same
yes,
Pokemon, the same like core, like you mentioned, of Murkrow,
yeah,
Gholdengo, Hydreigon, plus another Dragon type. In this case, you have the same
yeah,
Pokemon in Dragonite.
yes,
Uh, yeah. So, also for what it's worth, I think that his approach to this, where it reminds me of like Tornogre mirrors, where you would click Icy Wind with your Tornadus after, and then try to get Tailwind up second almost. But like Icy Wind is your main form of speed control in that mirror match because you know that you both could get Tailwind up whenever you wanted. So it is a pretty similar dynamic, and it's interesting how he leveraged that with Gengar instead. So maybe that's another way to look at this sort of core in the future moving forward.
yeah, sure. Isuin ended up like giving him the match actually because he had this two ways of speed control with Murkrow and Gengar as well, and I only had my Murkrow. So in the end, Gengar could just keep spamming Isuins, and I didn't really wanted to KO Gengar because he was going to like Hydreigon was going to enter the field, and he was probably going to sweep. So yeah, I ended up being in a pretty awkward spot, and yeah, I think that moves like Isuin have a lot of potential in this type of teams.
Hmm. Yeah, and so I think moving forward in this upcoming weekend, where I think by the time this video comes out, the tournament will have already started. But Victory Road, the Wide League, a couple other online tournaments that are happening this weekend. I'm going to an in-person local this weekend, and so I think that both the team that you used, made by Dave Katash, as well as the team that Fede Campo used, that also has a public rental code, are going to be maybe
Yeah,
two of the teams to watch out for, teams to prepare for the most, or maybe teams to steal if you are looking for a team to use.
sure.
Um, but yeah, this was a really good overview of how to play this sort of Murkrow hyper offensive style of team. Of course, if you want to use it yourself, there is a rental code on screen right now, and of course, there is a if you're interested in how it was built, Dave did talk about it in a YouTube video, which I will link in the description down below. But yeah, Paolo, thank you so much for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it. Did you have any final words or shout outs that you want to give?
Uh, just thank you, Adi, for inviting me. Like, it's really special for me to be here after not having played Pokemon for a while. And yeah, I'm like super hyped to continue playing, continue doing well. And yeah, shout outs to David for the team. Like, he probably does not even know me, but I really enjoyed like using his team. And yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, thank you so much for coming on the channel. This only really happens if players like you are willing to come and talk about your experiences, and I think everyone learns from it so much. So I really appreciate that you're willing to come on, and I hope to see you at events in this upcoming year, and maybe at the World Championships in Japan, especially if you continue your hot streak that started out just now.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for watching, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, I will see you all later.
Goodbye.